Well, that race at Richmond Studio for the Truck Series was definitely crazier than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the Richmond race for the Truck Series, the Toyota Care 250, the 6th race in the NASCAR Truck Series season. And like I just mentioned, this race started off pretty clean, and then this race turned into a crash fest, and it seemed like for a long time we couldn't get more than 2 or 3 laps in a run. And then we saw domination by a manufacturer today, and we saw a really awesome driver get his second win of the 2021 season. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this and also talk about the Fox coverage as well, because we got to talk about that as well throughout this race. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So starting on the pole in today's race, you had Ben Rhodes, who was starting on the pole after basically having a really strong run at the Bristol Dirt. He was starting on the pole. And then a few laps later into the race, Grant Enfinger actually was able to take the race lead, and he was able to pull away and dominate the beginning race and dominate stage 1 in this race. You had some drivers starting to come up to the front. Behind him, though, you had Hunter Nemechek, who started 18th. He drove his way all the way up to the second by the end of stage 2. You also had another driver, Carson Hocevar, no one really talked about in this race, but he was actually driving his way up to the front, was running in the top 10 a lot of this race. And also Sam Mayer, who started last in the race, he was starting make his way up to the front, and he was able to get to 22nd by the end of stage 2. His truck looked honestly really fast when he was driving to the field. It just was a matter of he would need a caution to have a chance. But coming off the final corner for stage 1, Grant Enfinger will come off the final corner and win stage 1. He should be running full-time in the Truck Series. He looked really strong in this race, but he was able to win stage 1 in this race. We would then actually, during the caution, Stuart Friesen, who looked really strong and was running in the top 10 early in the race, his truck was falling back. He actually ended up getting a speeding penalty on pit road and would kind of fall behind and would be probably out of contention in this race. We then go back racing for about 5 laps, and on lap 86, the second incident of the race would happen between Hailie Deegan and Taye Fogelman. Taye Fogelman crashed hard on the outside while Hailie Deegan washed off the track a little bit, and she got into Taye Fogelman. Taye Fogelman was not very happy. Again, Hailie Deegan had apparently been complaining on the radio about the truck going up, washing up a little bit. I don't blame Taye for being a little frustrated. I'm going to put the blame on Hailie for that incident, but when your truck washes up, you can't 100% control that, but at the same time, she's been complaining about that all race, and unlike other incidents, she had a truck on the outside. And Taye Fogelman, I can't blame him for being frustrated about that incident, though. We would then go back racing for about a couple more laps in this race. Actually, had a long caution for that, and then we went back racing. And then the next caution actually would come out between the 10 and the 3. There was some contact between Howie DeSavini, who was making his NASCAR Truck Series debut, and Jennifer Jo Cobb. Jennifer Jo Cobb would spin coming off of turn number 3, and that would basically be the third caution of this race. We would then go back racing once again for another couple laps, and then we actually go racing to the end of stage number 2 with Hunter Nemechek basically dominating the second stage of this event. He would come off the final corner and hold off Grant, and actually not hold off, dominate stage 2, and will hold on and win stage 2 of this race. We then go back racing on lap 151 with 100 laps to go in this race, and then we'd go a few more laps in the race, and then Derek Kraus, who had a tire going down, he would spin coming off of turn number 2 and hit the outside wall. He'd be lucky to continue. I think got a little bit of damage on that car. We then go back racing with around 92 laps to go in this race, and we only go 2 more laps, and there was an incident between the 1 and 23, that being Hailie Deegan and Chase Purdy. People are going to go ahead and instantly blame Hailie Deegan for an instance. Unlike the first one where you can actually put blame on Hailie Deegan, you can't really 100% put blame on Hailie Deegan for this incident because she was put 4 wide. You also had Danny Bone was kind of crowding down the 23 of Chase Purdy, and Chase Purdy should be running farther up front with the GMS equipment than he was running back there. So in my opinion, it was just a racing deal. You had 4 wide there, and Mikey defended her, of course, but she basically got into Chase Purdy, unfortunately, unintentionally, and got him wrecked and basically took him out of contention because you're actually having a decent run, but not a great run, to be perfectly honest with you. We would then go back racing with around 85 laps to go in this race, and we only go 1 more lap, and there would be another crash between the 10 and 3. Jennifer Jo Cobb once again spun, and that would actually it was Norm Benning, if I'm not mistaken, and Jennifer Jo Cobb. And then right then, if we went back to green for about 6 more laps, and then around 72 laps to go in this race, there would be retaliation between the 2 slowest trucks on the track, Jennifer Jo Cobb and the 6 and Norm Benning. Jennifer Jo Cobb would actually be partial. She basically said that something broke on the truck, which I find that to be BS. She basically intentionally wrecked Norm Benning. We saw it, and that would be another caution in this race. The 2 slowest trucks, she currently is meeting with NASCAR. She's probably going to get some sort of fine or some sort of major penalty, probably lose some points for sure. She's probably going to lose some championship points and some owner points as well. She is the owner of that truck. She's probably going to lose owner points. There will be some retaliation. The 2 slowest trucks on the track with issues who caused a lot of the wrecks in this race. That would be the next caution of this race. We would then go back racing for another, like, 5 more laps, and then the next caution race to come out between the 41 at Dawson Cram and the 22 Austin Wayne Salt. Austin Wayne Salt basically crowded up the 41 at Dawson Cram and took him out. We would then go back racing with around 52 laps to go in this basically round. I think it was around 52 laps to go in this race, 62 laps to go, excuse me, in this race. We actually go green for a few more laps, and there would be an incident once again with Austin Wentzelf and Cody Roba. Cody Roba got turned and dumped by Austin Wentzelf into the outside wall, and that bring out the second to last caution in this race. Cody Roba is actually having a top 20 run, is running pretty decent, and that would bring out the caution. We would then go back racing 41 laps to go, and speaking of which, there would be some strategy that would end up taking place. Some of the guys during the caution was around 72, 73 laps to go. Guys like Johnny Sauter, Matt Crafton, Tyler Ankrum, and Chandler Smith, they all basically decided to come down pit road, and because of this, they benefacted and everyone came down pit road, and they decided to stay out. Then we went back racing, though, with around 37 laps, with actually around 40 laps to go in this race, and then the final caution actually would come out in this race with around 40 laps to go. I can't remember exactly what happened to bring the final caution out of this race. And then we would go back racing once again with around 29 laps to go in this race, and it'd be straight to the finish. Hunter Nemechek actually got around Chandler Smith with around 29 laps to go, and also Kyle Busch, who was also chasing. He was actually able to pass Chandler Smith. It was actually around 17, 18 laps to go in this race. Hunter Nemechek actually made the pass on Chandler Smith, and it was basically a cat-and-mouse game to whether see if Hunter Nemechek could get passed by Kyle Busch, or Hunter Nemechek could basically hold on to the win and get his second win of the year. Well, Kyle Busch did not have enough for Hunter Nemechek. Speaking of which, behind things were actually happening between Austin Hill and also Sheldon Creed. There were things going on between those two for the win. Basically around, I think, his 9th or 10th position. You also had guys coming from the back, coming up to the front. That was also going on up to that point. But Hunter Nemechek held up a hard-charging Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch was starting to run the high a little bit more to get the run off the corner. And it looked like Kyle Busch was going to have a chance to pass Hunter Nemechek. He sent it into the corner, but there was not enough for Kyle Busch to run down Hunter Nemechek. And coming off the final corner, Hunter Nemechek wins his second race in 2021 and becomes arguably the favorite to win the championship so far here in 2021. He also becomes the second driver here in the Truck Series to win multiple races this year, and only becomes the third driver this year, the fourth driver in any respective series to win multiple races so far this year. Let me just say this right now, like I mentioned, I think Hunter Nemechek is a clear favorite. He's currently won 6 or 7 stages up to this point in 2 races now. He's got the most plot points going on right now, and he's looked the strongest so far of any driver up to this point. I think Hunter Nemechek, especially after a frustrating week at Richmond, I think he looks fast. He had the best car all day long, in my opinion, and he deserves to win. So congratulations to Hunter Nemechek on winning his second race of 2021. Before we get into the results of this race, let's talk about the broadcast a lot as well. For the second race in a row, the broadcast was absolutely horrific. There was 2 times in the first 10 laps in this race where they had like seizures with the broadcast, basically, where they basically cut the commercial and then came back with interesting in their middle sentences. They had issues there. They also said that Brett Holmes Racing was apparently Turner Motorsports, and they were also having issues with commentating throughout this race. I think the FS1 broadcast today was absolutely horrific and absolutely terrible. And I wish that the Truck Series and Xfinity Series had better broadcasts overall than the Cup Series, or at least as good a broadcast as the Cup Series, because I think the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series do have fantastic racing, and they've definitely at points this year have been more intriguing than the Cup Series. But I also do think that, Fox has got a lot of important things to do. And it would seem like they were really not on their A game today. And they were making a lot of mistakes today in the broadcast. I mean, it began from the point when someone at Fox basically said that command sucks. That command was absolutely boring today. That basically was the tone was basically set for that. And unfortunately, we saw a not so great broadcast today. That was really unfortunate to see. But anyway, let's now go ahead and go through the race results and then talk about the race overall. So let's start off. So Hunter Nemechek wins the second race of 2021. Very interesting thing to note. Toyota has won every single race so far in 2021, winning all 6 races, which I found very, very interesting. And also the 4th straight win for Kyle Busch Motorsports. I think that's the first time that Kyle Busch Motorsports has ever won 4 in a row, so congratulations to that. Kyle Busch finished his second. Kyle Busch didn't seem like at points he was not on his A game today, but he's able to drive up to the front and finish second. Again, he was my pick coming into this race, but he finished his second. Great run for Kyle Busch, Joe, in all honesty, but I thought he was going to win today's race. Tyler Ankrum, first top 10 of the year. I know it was pit strategy that got him up to the front, but he needed a really good run this year, and great to see that he finished third. Great run for Tyler Ankrum today. Chandler Smith finishes 4th. Chandler Smith also needed a really, really strong run today. He comes home with a 4th place run. Again, he got up there because of pit strategy, but he gets a 4th place finish. Great run for Chandler Smith today. Johnny Sauter finishes 5th. First top, I think this is the second top 5 he's had this year. He had a top 5 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Again, a 5th place run is honestly solid for Johnny Nemechek, considering the season the last couple of years. He needs some solid runs, and he gets a 5th place finish. Solid run for Johnny Sauter today. Todd Gillen finished at 6th. A great top 10 run today. I think he's had an up and down year as well so far. Gets 6th place finish. Great run for Todd Gillen. Ben Rhodes finishes 7th. I think Ben Rhodes absolutely right now is another driver who you can also put in consideration for the Final Four in the NASCAR Truck Series right now. He finishes 7th today. Great run for Ben Rhodes. Grant Enfinger, who dominated the early portion of this race, he kind of fell back, but he finishes 8th. Again, I think he should be full-time in the Truck Series right now. I don't know what Thorsport was thinking at the beginning of the year, but he finishes 8th today. Solid run for Grant Enfinger today. Sam Mayer finishes 9th. Let's talk about Sam Mayer a little bit here because Sam Mayer absolutely had a fantastic run today, considering where he had to start. For a truck that's absolutely struggled this year when Brett Holmes' team has been in that truck, they have not a lot of times ran in the top 30, but Sam Mayer drove that truck up to 9th. Again, Sam Mayer, I think, is a generational star. He's a really, really awesome driver, and he finished 9th today in a not-so-great truck. Can't wait to see what he can do in Xfinity, but yeah, awesome run for Sam Mayer today. I expected him kind of run in the top 20. I didn't expect him to run top 10, but he was in the top 10 pretty much a lot of this race and was running around that top 10 area. Saw a run today for Sam Mayer. And Austin Hill finishes 10th in today's race. Carson Hocevar, actually, Sheldon Creed finishes 11th. Carson Hocevar finishes 12th in today's race. Carson Hocevar, no one really talked about him too much in this race, except for one section. But he was running and it was starting to make up ground. It looked like he was going to be a top 5 truck today. But he gets a 12th place run. Solid run for Carson Hocevar today. Stuart Friesen finished at 13th. He was running in the top 10 a lot of the early portion of this race. But like I mentioned, he had a speeding penalty and he never really recovered to have a great finish. But he finished at 13th in today's race. Still, that team looks a lot better, though, this year than they looked in previous years. Zane Smith finishes 14th. He ran in the top 5 a lot of this race. I think pit strategy kind of cost him a shot at contending, but he finishes 14th. Not a bad run, though, for Zane Smith regardless. Derek Cross finishes 15th today. Derek Cross had an up and down day. He got involved in a couple wrecks, if I'm not mistaken, but he finishes 15th. Not a bad recovery. Spencer Davis finishes 16th. Haley Deegan, despite with all the damage, all the incidents she was involved in today, she bounces back for a top 20. But I expected more from Haley Deegan. Haley Deegan's got still a lot of work to do. And TJ Manders apparently was not happy with her on the radio. Her spotter was not very happy with her on the radio. She's got a lot of learning, a lot of experiences to basically do. But she finishes in the top 20, finishes 17th. Got lucky to finish in the top 20. Matt Crafton finishes 18th. Austin himself finished 19th. Danny Bowen finishes 20th. 21st goes to Timmy Hill. 22nd for Timothy Peters. Rafael Sarr finishes 23rd. I think he got some damage at one point in a wreck. He was looking really, really strong for a top 5. Looked absolutely great today. Unfortunately, he finishes 23rd, though, which is really disappointing. Tanner Gray finished 24th. Dawson Cramp finishes 25th. 26th for Jet Nolan. 27th for Spencer Boyd. 28th for Chase Purdy. 29th for Ryan Reed. 30th for Keith McGee. 31st goes to Corey Roper. 32nd for Norm Benning. 33rd for Joshua Yoon. 34th for Howie DiSavino, 3rd, who apparently had no power steering in this race. So he pursued, continued on the race, also had radio issues. He finishes 34th today. Chris I finished 35th. Cody Robot finishes 36th. 37th place for Brad Moffitt, who had really, really bad issues, apparently. Engine problems, if I'm not mistaken. He finishes 37th today, which unfortunately because he's running closer to top 10. Didn't have a fantastic run today, though. Jennifer Jo Cobb finishes 38th. Tate Fogelman finishes 39th, and finishing last in today's race was Ryan Truex for basically a power steering issue, and unfortunately fell out of this race, which he looked like he was potentially getting a top 15, top 20 run. He unfortunately finishes last in today's race. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the point standings as of right now. Take a look at the playoff standings after a few races. So right now, Hunter Nemechek, of course, is the current points leader. We know that Hunter Nemechek, Ben Rhodes are both locked in the championship right now. Sheldon Creed is third in the points right now, 54 points back. Austin Hill is right now fourth, 74 points back. Matt Crafton is 80 points back. Stuart Friesen is 87 points back. 7th is Grant Enfinger, 91 points back. And Zane Smith is 8th, 105 back. Todd Gillen is 106 back. And Johnny Sauter actually currently rounds out the field of drivers who are in the playoffs right now. 129 back. Then you have Carson Hocevar, who's only 2 points behind him, 131 back of the championship. Chandler Smith today with a solid running out, puts himself only 12 behind. Also a tie between him and Austin himself. Then Rafa Sard is back about 20 points behind Johnny Sauter after not a great race. And then Brett Moffitt is 15th in the standings right now. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the race overall, to be perfectly honest with you. Very long review, by the way. So I have to say this about the race. The beginning of this race was absolutely solid, in my opinion. I like the long green flag runs, man, early in this race. We saw solid passing, comers and goers throughout the field, tire where it mattered. But then the second half of this race came out, and it turned to an absolute shit show. Too many wrecks, in my opinion. Like I said, I've said this before on the channel when it comes to these races. I like a few cautions in this race to spice things up. I don't like having 10 or 12 cautions in this race. We have, what, like 12 cautions in today's Truck Series race, which I think ties the record for the most cautions we've seen in a truck race in the history of the series. So, yeah, that was absolutely a big problem with this race, and also the broadcast in general wasn't great. I will say the first half of the race was solid in my opinion, but the second half of the race was not really great, to be perfectly honest with you. So for that, I'm going to give today's Trucks race score a 6.5 out of 10. I will say that this was the second worst truck race we've seen so far of the year. I thought the Daytona truck race was the worst race so far we've seen just because of the officiating was going on there. But I thought that today's race was a close second for one of the worst races of the year, which is disappointing because last year's race here when Grant Enfinger won was absolutely fantastic compared to this one, which wasn't as great. Again, when they were green flag racing, the racing was great, but when you had all the cautions happening, it just became a shit show, and it became too much, in my honest opinion, for that. The next race the Truck Series has will be at Kansas Speedway, which will actually begin the Triple Truck Challenge, which I think will take place at Kansas, Circuit Americas, and I think also at Dover is the Triple Truck Challenge, which means they'll cup drivers for a couple races. We'll get to see all the truck drivers race, and we'll see Kyle Busch racing for a couple of races. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's race review from the Toyota Care 250 at Richmond International Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's race. What are your thoughts on today's race? Let me know your score in the comments below. Give it a 1 through 10. Give me your score in the comments below. Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, like I said, make sure to like so YouTube can recommend more of these great videos. If you do that, I would greatly and truly appreciate it. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.